On tonight's episode of EPL Powered, I, Paul Metcalf, will be buried alive.
Hello, good evening, and remain indoors.
Let's rock.
I'm looking at the XG here.
That's a load of bollocks! You've got to fucking die to get 3 points!
This is what you're taking out of this game. This is what you're pissing and moaning about.
Yo, somebody please find my dog. I'll pay anything. I'm dead serious.
I came here as a boy. I'm leaving here as a man boy.
He's gonna get red. Oh, he's got a red. Yeah.
So wet dream and orgasmic proportions!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the EPL Powered.
Yeah, right. What ho, chappies? What ho? What an episode we've got in store for you tonight. I am in Montreal. There's a camera right now in Toronto. Special guest Paul for tonight's episode. I know there's not a lot going on in a footballing context, so you decided to up the ante. You're raising the stakes by burying yourself alive?
Well, I mean, I've worked it out, Mike. I've got Jose here with me. He's operating the excavator, so that'll backfill the grave site, if you will. I mean, hopefully nobody dies. I mean, anyway, that wouldn't be good for the pod, but we are raising the stakes here. I will be broadcasting this podcast, from 6 feet underground, fully covered in earth in a tomb.
Okay, and you do have a lav mic on, so we will be able to communicate throughout this podcast. How much air do you think is going to be in this coffin? Are you going to be able to do a 30-minute podcast?
Well, I'm no scientist, Mike. In fact, I'm starting to think that maybe I should have been a little more diligent in my calculations on this. But I think I should have roughly 30 minutes of oxygen to do the pod. The air quality will be deteriorating. On an ongoing basis. We'll be monitoring that. On an ongoing basis, and I mean, I'm just stuttering a little bit. So now that it's the day, it's getting a little bit real,
Well, you certainly are taking one for the team here. Hopefully this will have a good knock-on effect with our download numbers. Paul, as you get into that coffin, I just want to tell everybody, chappies, we are doing another FPL mini league for the upcoming Premier League season. I have sent out the league code. The deadline is fast approaching. All the information is in the show notes. Also, chappies, for all of our episodes, go over to patreon.com/EPLpod. You can find us on Twitter at EPLpod. Paul, it looks like you're in there. You look pretty snug inside of the casket there. I mean, I can't see you, but you're a big guy, and it's a small casket. How do you feel? Can you maneuver around?
I mean, it's not as much as I would like. This is not, normal situation. Lying on your back, kind of speaking up into the microphone. It's not into a microphone, a lav mic. It's different. It's different. I feel like I'm just kind of talking to nobody in darkness. I can still see a little bit of light peeking through the cracks of the coffin, but that will change shortly. Jose, let's get this thing going.
Yeah, you're gonna have to speak up. I could hear the dump truck either backing up or moving forward. It's hard to tell from my angle, but there's a lot of dirt, it has to be said. Hopefully the structural integrity of this casket will hold up as this dirt is being poured on you. Whoa, here it goes.
Let's hope.
Here it goes. All right. Are you okay?
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Okay. That is a lot of dirt being poured on you.
It's creaking a little bit.
You're still with us.
Oh my God! I don't know if you know this about me, Mike, but I used to cut grass at a cemetery, and in fact, most of the time when you are buried in this manner, there's a tamper that comes along to pack the dirt down afterwards, and you'll see the earth give way, and that is in fact the coffin splintering into a million bits. I would say this happens to most coffins that are buried, so think twice about how much you want to spend on that thing. A tomb is different. That's when you're enclosed in cement. Those things will be a little more robust. In this case, we're just going to backfill the dirt. There will be no tamping. that would probably crush and kill me almost certainly.
Okay. Well, let's take your mind off of what's happening right now. I'm sure people are loving it. This is very tense. I'm nervous for you, but I do want to talk about Rafael Varane.
Why, you finished?
Sorry. I want to talk about United's new signing, Paul.
I only have so much fucking oxygen in here, Mike, so get your shit together.
Varane, if you will, $42.7 million from Real. I think he's going to be doing a great job at the back in the upcoming season with Harry Maguire. I mean, I would think maybe this is the best center back pairing in the world right now when you look at Varane. He's won the Champions League 4 times, La Liga 3 times. He's won the World Cup. He's been instrumental in all of those trophies. I was talking to Sir Ben last night, and I was saying how United have won the transfer window, and Ben said it's a stupid term to say that. It's just whatever team spends the most money wins the transfer window. But I mean, in light of, the non-signings from other clubs right now, Sancho and Varane coming in the same week is great stuff. I hope that United don't offload a bunch of players as well to sort of cover the costs. People are saying that Pogba might be going to PSG. Lingard today against Brentford looked very good. It looks like he has the potential to be a new signing. That being said, if you could, hawk him off to West Ham for 20 mil, I mean, why not? What do you make of the signing, Paul? And does this signing officially sort of declare to everyone in the football world that Real Madrid is completely broke?
Well, some numbers were published by Deloitte for not the 2021 season, but the 2019-2020 season. And as a whole, I think football, let me just bring up the numbers here. The revenue declined $3.4 billion to fall to $22 billion. So it's that they made $22 billion for the 2019-2020 season, and that fell $3.4 billion from the year before. And during this fall, in fact, the Bundesliga did the best. Like they were able to show themselves to be the most resilient. They were able to complete their season before the end of the financial year, and they didn't have to pay much in the way of rebates to broadcasters. So they've actually eclipsed La Liga as the second most lucrative league. But Deloitte is saying that that's sort of just temporary, and La Liga should bounce back. But that's not ideal, and maybe that feeds into the fact that they let Varane go in this manner. I mean, this guy has 4 Champions League titles, 3 La Liga titles. I guess he's got a World Cup with France, and he's only 29 years old. I just thought he was older than that because he's seemingly been around with Madrid for so long. I mean, when Zidane called him to try to pitch him to come to Madrid, Varane was saying oh, can you call me back? I'm working on my international baccalaureate, the end of high school, standardized degree testing sort of system for the French people use in some French schools here in Canada as well. So it's sort of crazy because center backs 29 is nothing, man. It's nothing.
28, I'm reading, yes.
28, whatever. So, yeah, late 20s, fuck, that's a goddamn steal.
Yeah, he was definitely a player that Sir Alex Ferguson wanted to sign. Just a point of clarification, Paul. You said let me pull up the numbers here. You are in a coffin. Does that mean pulling out sheets of paper? How exactly are you getting your information right now inside of this coffin?
Well, I have a computer in here. I mean, it's not
Okay.
I've got a lava mic. I mean, what do you think? That it's just magically being broadcast through, some fairy or something like that? Some type of magic?
No, I'm just surprised that you've got room for a full laptop. Anyhow.
But don't really. It's right on my chest, and I can't even open it up fully, so I'm sort of peering into it.
Okay.
In fact, the whole thing's kind of that's the only light I have down here is this eerie glow of my laptop, and I'm starting to have a flashback of when I was younger, when my brothers rolled me up in a carpet. I don't know if you've ever been rolled up in a carpet, Mike, but a tight roll. I don't know why I agreed to it, but I had a full body fucking freak out. Trust me, man. Being rolled up in a carpet is not for the I don't think I'm claustrophobic, but there might be some latent effects of that, to be honest with you.
Let's hope that you don't have any freakouts here on this pod. We need you here talking about the football, Paul. So, I mean, what happens to Lindelof? Is he then sort of just going to be a substitute for the entire season? Eric Bailly, I mean, he's had a bunch of injuries. Seemed like Solskjaer did not give two shits whether or not he went to the Olympics. He's off to the Olympics. And, you know, one of my favorite United players ever, Phil Jones, for a lark, I burnt his jersey way back in the day, but he's healthy. And like that guy has been going through just injury after injury. When he was signed from Blackburn Rovers, you know, Ferguson was saying that he'd likely be the next United captain, and it just hasn't worked out that way for him. But it would be nice to see him have like a long period of good health, because I think on his day he's a good defender. I mean, he gets made fun of a lot because he pulls all these dumb faces whenever he plays. But, you know, it's just one injury after another. Kind of, I guess, like what happened with Solskjaer at the end of his career. I'm sure that Solskjaer can relate. And then Tuanzebe as well at center back might have to go out on loan. I'm not sure, but it's a great signing. I mean, talk to any United fan out there, and they would have said going into the summer, you know, the priority is definitely at center back. Some people were saying, too, you know, you need someone up on the right in an attacking position. You know, there's question marks whether or not Rashford needs surgery on his shoulder. There's talks about Martial going out. I mean, with Sancho coming in, that attack potentially with like Cavani, Sancho, and either Rashford or Greenwood could be rather devastating with Bruno Fernandes right back there. You know, supporting the lot and giving, you know, hopefully really good service. It would be nice if United could sell some of their fringe players and then maybe go to West Ham and be like, hey, we're going to take Declan Rice, thanks kindly, because I think holding mid could be another area that United need to sort of bolster a little bit. I think if you could get something for Matic right now, you might as well. I mean, he is getting a little long in the tooth. His best days are behind him. He's still kind of like a brick shit house, don't get me wrong, but we definitely need an upgrade in that position. Paul, are you okay? Are you still breathing? I'm worried about you.
Still breathing, Mike. It's becoming increasingly difficult, and just bringing up the weather forecast here, and it seems as though there may be a storm, and a storm could disrupt my weight calculations on this coffin, making things pretty dangerous. So let's keep this thing rolling.
And keep it rolling we will, Paul. But first, I'm just going to, you know, stretch out my legs a little bit, use the facilities, get a glass of water, just go outside, get a breath of fresh air, sort of just regroup. Chappies, wait for it. Join us in part 2.
Should have taken a dump before I got in this thing.
All right, Chappies, part 2 of EPL Pod. Paul, you know, there is a camera right now on this gravesite of yours. And I have to say, you know, the weather here is pretty overcast. It looks like it's going to rain. It looks even worse in Toronto. It looks like it's going to absolutely just teem. I'm not sure how that's going to affect your plans, but I thought I'd give you the heads up. Let's continue, Paul, if you don't mind, talking.
It's not going to affect my plans, Mike, because there is no plans for that. There's been no provisions made for this. So, I mean, yeah, this is fucked up. This is so fucked up. This was so stupid. This was a huge mistake.
Nah, it should be fine. Don't worry about it. All right. I do want to talk about Wayne Rooney. So he had that big night out. All right.
I'm thinking,
Keep it together. Keep it together. If it's a panic attack, just ride it out. You know, just pull on your finger so that your finger hurts and you don't have to think about.
I just want to move, Mike. I just want to move
the pain
really
you have
bad.
mentally and internally. Okay, so Wayne Rooney, Paul. Apparently, he said he received a message from these girls saying, "Morning, Wayne, 10 grand, please, mate," or Colleen sees this. So Rooney's saying that he's being blackmailed. There is a long quote from one of the mothers of one of these girls that was in the room with Wayne Rooney. And she says, quote, "I don't care about the police complaint with regards to the blackmail. These poor girls were just going out for a 21st birthday. They're 21 and he's nearly 40. Which is not true. Rooney is 35. He's invited them over. He sent over security guards to invite them over to his VIP booth. It's upset them. They're in tears. She's a good girl and comes from a decent family. They thought they were being funny. I feel awful for them." So it seems to me, Paul, that the mother of, you know, one of these quote unquote victims is trying to say that their daughters have been wronged. Is this a case of Rooney not being able to take a joke, or is he in the right here? If someone were to, you know, send you a photo saying $10,000 or your wife sees this photo, it seems to me that's as clear as day that it's blackmail and that Rooney has every right to go to the police and say something. Follow up, though, just a quick follow up. We'll talk about, his managerial career right now at this moment in time. If your manager is going out getting shit-faced wasted and getting blackmailed by 21-year-old girls, would you lose confidence in him as a player?
Just to clarify here, the girls sent the message, 10 grand or Colleen sees this, or he just received an anonymous message that said that and had a picture of him with the girls?
Okay, just for complete clarification, this is the quote. It comes after he said he received a message saying, "Morning, Wayne, 10 grand, please, mate," or Colleen sees this. It's understood that the force is not investigating any of the women in the images, and there's no suggestion that the alleged blackmail threat was made by them. End quote.
All right. Yeah, I just want to be clear about that. Yeah, straight up. If someone's blackmailing you, to just fuck them. Whenever you have something in your head or something you've done, it seems worse than it really is. Like if you actually expose it to daylight, you're always underwhelmed by the repercussions or the reaction you get from it. I mean, when David Letterman was sleeping around and like sleeping with his assistant or whatever, someone else working at the show tried to blackmail him, and he just went straight to the police, and that guy was like charged and fired. He lost his job and like went to jail. So it doesn't really pay to do those things unless you have some like real juicy dirt. Then it might pay. You know what I mean? But yeah, he's definitely right to go to the police. And that's what I thought was weird, because when we first touched on this story, he went to it said that he called the police, and I'm like, what are you calling the police for? Because like some girls were prancing around you half naked and you were too drunk to be a live witness of the situation. It's like South Park, where what Stan's younger brother is just getting seduced by the kindergarten teacher, and then the chief of police is like, the hot blonde, and then he's like, yeah, and he just goes, nice, and then that they go on to say that the only crime here is the fact she's not doing it to me.
All right, it is hard to hear you with all the thunder going on over your head there, Paul. So, I mean, we can talk a little bit more about Wayne Rooney. He did injure one of his own players. A very, up-and-coming prospect, only 20 years old. I think he went in for a tackle and has now sidelined this guy for at least a few weeks. Here's the other question,
captain
right?
of the club. They only have 9 players, 9 senior players, 2 of which are goalkeepers. And the guy that he injured is knocked out for 3 months with an ankle injury.
For 3 months.
And he was, at times captain last season, and is one of the few sort of bright spots of this club where the people have been leaving en masse because they can't pay their taxes. It's like a total disaster.
Now, here's the thing. I don't want to be like an alarmist, and I'm trying not to, be too, I don't know what the word would be, maybe an alarmist. But if your manager is going out getting shit-faced to the point where he's just unconscious on a bench, and then he goes in for a tackle and injures you for 3 months, surely you might be linking the two in your mind, would you not? How could you not?
Well, Derby had issues with DUI. 2 of their players got suspended last season for drinking and driving. Like, it seems as though the culture at this place is just a mess. I mean, I think recently, was it a basketball team or something where all the players had iPhones, but then some guy had a different type of phone, and he was called out and was told to get an iPhone so he would fall in with the team? I don't know. I heard that
that's not much of a cultural problem, is it?
Well, I don't know if it's I guess it was deemed to be. I mean, I just heard this on the radio. I don't even know what sport this was in. I feel like this was NBA, but I have no idea.
All right. Well, I'll look it up.
But that's literally a thing where it's just the phone this guy had, he was deemed to be kind of, a problem maker because he was different from everyone else. And I don't know if that's a good example. But
no, I think it's a terrible example with all due respect. I'm talking about players getting shit-faced and driving and injuring themselves and hooking up with girls half their age. And you're talking about guys not wanting to get the same phone. They're not analogous. Maybe there's two cultural problems going on, or problems of culture, I should say. But I think they're quite different. I would much rather be, on a team where my phone's not accepted rather than a shit-faced coach coming in and breaking one of my legs.
NBA coach once punished whole team because one player had an Android phone. The coach felt the solitary Android-using player wasn't prioritizing the iPhone-loving team. This is the headline I'm getting off some fucking website that has a hard-on for Android phones.
All right, and what team are you talking about here?
Jason Kidd shamed a Milwaukee Bucks player, apparently.
Well, I think Jason Kidd, with all due respect, is somewhat of an idiot. Anyhow, Paul, I got to get up. I got to stretch my legs again. It's getting a little hot in this apartment. Anyhow, chappies, we're going to take a quick break. Join us for part 3.
I'll be here.
All right, chappies, part 3 of EPL Pod. Big twist of events. It is raining heavily, Paul, in Toronto. Is any of that water filtering through the ground? I mean, presumably not, right?
Oh, no, yes, it is, Mike. This is not a waterproof coffin. The stakes have been raised considerably. Yeah, I mean, I would say the lower half of my body, the back of my T-shirt, my pants is completely saturated in this sort of dirty, oily slurry of shit. It's extremely uncomfortable. My laptop, fortunately, is sort of underneath a solid wooden top of this thing, so I can keep it out of the murk and try to stay professional here. But yeah, the stakes have been raised, Mike. The stakes have been raised.
Yeah, and just one further point of clarification. I see Jose. He's the guy with the mustache. He's got a huge gut. It's just very pendulous. It's swinging from side to side, and he's eating some KFC right now out of a bucket. This is the man that is going to be digging you out of the grave when all is said and done.
Jose has the finest hands in the business, and it is no mean feat to extricate someone in this situation where, if he pulls the lever too hard or too forcefully, he could crush me and the coffin and cause collapses, anything. Like this guy is the best in the business, and he will, I assure you, delicately extract me from this situation.
All right, Godspeed. So Paul,
I have supreme confidence.
Let's talk about
his physique is entirely irrelevant to this situation, Mike, and it's unnecessary for you to point that out, frankly.
Well, yeah, sorry. It is weird, I have to say, this podcast episode. I'm not actually seeing you. I'm just seeing a big pit that's been filled in. Paul, so let's talk about the Premier League. I believe that Chelsea right now are saying that fans will have to show proof of COVID jabs to go into matches, and it seems to me that the Premier League might follow suit as well. The Premier League said, quote, this is to increase the safety and comfort of our supporters, players, and staff as we begin hosting capacity crowds for the first time since March of last year. There's been a lot about, COVID passports and stuff like that. Frankly, I have not been listening. I've traveled to enough countries. When you go into countries, you have to show like yellow fever vaccination. You have to show various vaccinations to get into certain countries, because the local population potentially has not been vaccinated against these things, and you don't want to spread this. I think, the idea of a COVID passport for international travel makes perfect sense. For domestic travel, and I'm going to say, I am double vaxxed, and I think everybody probably should get, these vaccinations. I haven't heard really any good arguments against it. Anyhow, but for domestic travel, COVID passports, for Premier League games, what are your thoughts?
There's no satisfactory answer. I was talking to this with my parents, like, they're trying to, I don't know, my mom has some like garden society that she's a part of, and some older person that was going to be taking over the reins of this thing, one of these thankless jobs of looking after these nonprofit organizations, taking the minutes and all this bullshit and managing the budget. That person is not vaccinated, and all these other people are just in a tizzy and they don't want to have anything to do with her, but like they're having some meeting outside and the person doesn't want to wear a mask, but some people are all freaked out, and it's just a bunch of bullshit, man. But at the same time, if you didn't get vaccinated, and 96% of cases or something now in Ontario are all like people that have not been vaccinated, shocker. You know, if I got to jump through the hoop and get vaccinated with the majority to stop this thing in its tracks, and you don't want to get vaccinated, but then you want to be able to cavort in large groups, that kind of pisses me off too. So you get to have your cake and eat it too. I'm the one who had to fucking stay up all night with feverish chills to cover your ass, because if everyone behaved like you did, we'd be in a world of hurt right now. So I kind of see it from both sides, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's your right not to get vaxxed, but I don't know, man. There's no answer for it. There's no easy answer for it.
No, I think, you know, like looking at us as Canadians, I believe as a population, we're the most vaccinated country in the world. Obviously, you know, that
because we were starved. We didn't get. We were one of the few people to get the last to get vaccines based on our kind of like G6 or whatever fucking.
Yeah, no, but we've been doing well. But like, you know, I do have friends that aren't vaccinated, and it's created like a few minor issues, I guess. I feel good though right now, like being double vaxxed, and I'm relatively young. I feel like, okay, well, you know, I'm probably not going to suffer any terrible consequences if I get COVID, but these people, you know, with this new variant or whatever, and I know people don't want us to talk about COVID. We've been doing it for like 2 years straight, but you know, they might suffer the consequences. And if they do, I mean, like, not to sound like a dick, but it's going to be hard to have sympathy for them. They've had every single chance, at least in this country, to get a vaccination. If you refuse to do it and then you get super sick from this thing, I mean, don't come crying to me. I do not like the idea in France where Macron is saying that, you know, people, it might be mandatory for everybody to get vaccinated. I don't like anything that's mandatory. I mean, you know, outside of paying your taxes, I think you should be as free as you want. And if you don't want to get this thing, okay, don't get this thing. If you want to get it, you know, by all means, go for it. The idea of passports and tracking and have like all of your health records on one app or whatever, that's a little murky. I'm not crazy about that idea because where it might lead. But I mean, generally, yeah, like I said, I haven't heard a great excuse for not getting vaccinated. And at the end of the day, the Premier League and Chelsea are private enterprises, and they can conduct themselves as they see fit. And if people don't like the protocols that they're putting in place, then they don't have to go to these games. Let's talk about heading, Paul, in soccer right now. It seems to me that there has been some various recommendations that have been put out to minimize heading in England.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much clarity on them. It's just kind of generally speaking, you're in a week of training leading up to your game, let's say, you're allowed 10 higher force headers. So a higher force header is defined as, you know, one that comes from a long pass, say more than 35 meters, or from crosses, corners, or free kicks, I guess, you know, if you're in a wall and you take one off the noggin. So I guess there's quite a bit of latitude in describing what would be a higher force header. And then are you going to have someone with a clipboard marking down, oh yeah, Paul has had 7 higher force headers thus far. So it's very kind of nebulous as to how this is going to be enforced. It's just kind of, I guess, the very beginnings of a culture change. Dr. Michael Gray, who's like a football and dementia expert from the University of East Anglia, who gave evidence to the government's concussion in sport report last week, he said he welcomed the guidelines but had reservations, saying, quote, "It remains unclear on what basis these specific FA limitations have been made and how the new guidance will be enforced. The recommendations make no distinction based on gender, despite growing evidence that women are more susceptible to head injury than are men. There are biological differences between male and female in both structure and physiology that warrant a more considered approach." And to expand on what he's saying, some people speculate that just having stronger neck muscles helps protect you. But at the same time, you and I saw that Alan Shearer documentary, and they did cognitive testing on him after 20, like, of the lightest headers you could possibly imagine. And just from that, under the same testing paradigm, his performance deteriorated.
Yeah, no, totally. By the way, I am watching this Jose guy. He's just mowing down on the KFC. I don't know where he got the second bucket from. But no, I think we're kind of like at the beginning of the end when it comes to headers. I mean, I can't envision this being a thing in like 15 years from now when we know even that much. Paul!
What?
Jose is just keeled over. He's clutching for his heart right now.
No,
He's flailing right on top of you.
He's probably exercising. I don't know.
He's not moving. Paul, what are your coordinates?
Is he resting?
What are your coordinates? I got to send an ambulance for him.
What do you mean my coordinates?
What are your coordinates?
I don't know exactly. It's a rough idea. I don't know. I'm bad with directions, man. It's like... I'm at a park.
At a park? That's not going to help me.
What's it called again?
Paul, Jose's life is on the line here. What are your coordinates?
Oh, I'm going to have to Google this. Oh, fuck. I just lost my monitors. Something shorted out with all this moisture in here, Mike.
Paul, quit mucking around and tell me your coordinates. Paul, man, I'm worried. 5 minutes have come and gone, and there's still no ambulances. I don't know who to call. I'm worried that Jose's dead.
I don't give a fuck about that fat fucking idiot Jose, Mike. I'm gonna die in here. Someone get me out of this box. Someone help me.